Okay. Again, I sincerely apologize. I didn't notice this error, and Joshua just noticed it. His notification is why um I noticed as well. So to our advantage, this material is much fewer or has less pages than the material I mistakenly opened. So this shouldn't take much time. Okay. So what we were supposed to discuss, everybody please try to put everything you heard in the beginning of the class behind um, at the back of your head or at the back of your brain. Not to delete it, but it's just not time for it yet. So when we go back to when we enter next week and we're discussing that, you can bring it back up and refresh your memory or something. But right now, what we are supposed to be discussing is product strategy and stakeholder management. Over the course of our sessions, I have mentioned severally that product management is a very strategic position. And oh, okay. I think I haven't started recording, have I? One
Recording.
sec.
Yes. Can you hear me? You're recording.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, so remember I have mentioned over time that product management is a very strategic position, and this more so is like with the way it reflects in your ability to perform in your role is highly tied to how you figure out your position as you go, because a lot of things that you do in product management is less so defined than it is figuring it out. So there are basic things about product management, of course, that you learn and as you train, right? But for the most part, you don't really know what a particular product will throw at you, and neither does the HR. And it is left to you to understand your role so well that you figure out how to best handle a particular product or best fit yourself into this new product or new team or new environment in order to perform in your role and bring the business goal to fruition, basically. So product management is very strategic, and today we'll be discussing product strategy and then stakeholder management. I also mentioned that part of your strategy is your ability to manage people. Your people management skills would come into question, would be tested, and will be tried. You know how you say someone tried you, like your strategy, your stakeholder management falls on into people management that I always talk about when it comes to product management. I feel like nobody tells you really that a lot of the things you would do in product management is like 80% people management and like 20% understanding of techie thingy, right? Of course, to also manage these people, when they are telling you something, part of managing them is understanding the techie conversations they will be having with you when they're talking about certain things. A designer is talking about how a particular design or interface might not make sense in the full picture and all that. You also need to be able to follow that conversation, because when you follow that conversation, then your communication is easy flowing and they feel like you hear them, and then with that you're managing that relationship properly, right? So your knowledge also of the techie aspect of product management would help with your stakeholder management as well. But let's get into it and see what we'll be discussing. We'll be discussing crafting a product vision, defining product strategy and the product roadmap, and then stakeholder management. Again, we'll be discussing crafting a product vision, defining the product strategy, the product roadmap, which we've also touched on before, and stakeholder management. So for crafting the product vision, simply put, a product vision details a product's purpose and future direction. A product vision highlights the direction of the business and it shapes the development of the product strategy. Sorry. Okay, so a product vision basically is trying to say what do we think or what do we see in the future of this product? What is the plan for the future in regards to the product that you are managing? What do you see for its future? It's like when someone asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see yourself in 10 years? If you're able to answer that when trying to create your product vision, then you're able to tell yourself what direction you want your product to go, or the contribution of your product to your business to go. Again, remember that the business aspect of your product is very important. For every time that you think about the technical aspect of your business, you need to also think about how this plays or keys into your business as a whole. Right? If you're saying, okay, so the goal is to have 1,000 subscribers, and the subscription fee will cover so and so, and the income, how many percent of that income will become salary for your workers, and all those calculations. You're also thinking about, in that same breath, you're thinking about how this affects business, what needs to be fixed, or how this income doesn't cover for everything. You're thinking about your business for the most part. So it shapes the development of your product strategy as well. This kind of trickles down to how you go about your product development, what strategy you're going to use, what best suits your business goals. So your vision, again, like to reiterate what I just said, your product vision is like thinking for the future of your product. What direction do you want your product to go as you move into the future of your product? You start one product today, 1 year goes by, or you're thinking of what would happen within 1 year. What do I need or want my product to look like or function as within 1 year, right? And then that becomes your vision for the product. And then with that, it trickles down into your product strategy. If you understand what your vision for this product is, or what your product vision is, then you're able to figure out what is the best way to go about developing this product. So it's not just in the thin air. I want my vision is to acquire all to bank all Africans within the globe, or like to bank all Africans within the globe. If you just say that, that's just a saying. But then how do you shape your product management skills, right? Or your product management skill or role into making this a reality? What strategy do you use to accomplish this? So that's why it says here that like your product vision trickles down into your strategy. And then crafting the roadmap is traditionally the responsibility of high-level product executives. However, once crafted, product managers shape product initiatives and activities in line with the set product vision. Okay, so it's important to note that in most very well-established tech firms, you would only what do you call that? You'd only be able to get to be a part of roadmap planning or road mapping if the product executives, it could be the VP of product or head of product, if he invites you or she invites you to be a part of that. Sometimes they create a roadmap for you and hand it over to you, and from that roadmap you're able to say they might invite you for a conversation about the roadmap. Like you could be present. Usually, you would be present in the meeting where the roadmap is created. So with that, you need to listen very clearly to how they arrive at the final roadmap, because that's how you start to understand their own vision for the product, and you can figure out what your vision from what they have discussed for the product will be, and what strategy you as like the manager in charge of that product wants to use or would decide to use in the future for your product. defining the product strategy, problem ideation, assumption mapping, feature prioritization and building, and launching an MVP are activities that fall under the umbrella of product strategy. Um, I am hoping that everybody still remembers problem ideation, assumption mapping, where we talked about the three assumptions you have to make in the state of your customers. You're going to assume that your product is feasible. That means you're putting yourself in the shoes of your customer and you're saying that, okay, this I'm going to assume that my intended users can conveniently use my products. There will be no legal impediments on my products within their region, or there is no say cultural impediment making them or restraining them from wanting to use this product or having to be able to access this product or its features, or there is no technical or technological advancement problem hindering them from using my product. And then there is the feasibility assumption and desirability feasibility, viability and desirability assumption, where you're trying to ensure that you're assuming desirability, that your product is desirable. That means you put yourself in the shoes of your users or potential users and you tell yourself, what would make my product desirable to them, right? What would make them, if it's business to business, what features are you offering these businesses to make them want to use your product and not that of your competitors, right? So you're going to assume that and put yourself in their shoes and work towards that. And the other one is the feature prioritization. What features come like as more top importance or relevance to your product or to your business goals in comparison to the others. So remember, to properly do a good feature prioritization, it is your responsibility to figure out what resources you have available to you. If you're saying that you want an insurance coverage for They want an insurance coverage for a loan, for example, for a loan app or a loan service. You saying that and having the option of several insurance coverages and being able to understand how much or what the budget for that coverage will be and how you can make it back in the business. It is your responsibility, and it is your responsibility to consult whomever you might need to consult to be able to make this decision. But at the end of the day, it is you who has to understand how this plays into your priorities or your future priorities. If your resources do not cover for certain luxuries, then you can make them lower priorities for your product, right? When I say luxury, I mean like it's not extremely important that this is a feature right now, but as the product starts to make more money, you can request from the finance team, from the legal team, that this is a feature you would like to add because your competitors have it, and it's not a bad idea to have, even though it's not urgent to have it, right? And then the building and launching an MVP are activities that fall under the umbrella of product strategy. So it's saying here that everything we call product strategy, things that fall under the concept of a product strategy, is your problem ideation, how you figure out what the problem is and how you want to tackle or create solution for this problem, what solution you think you're creating for this problem, and how you match it to your business goal, your assumption mapping, your feature prioritization, and then the actual building of the product. All of them are things that fall under your product strategy, because strategy is about how do you go about doing all of these. And if you're able to identify, if someone is trying to study you and your process, and you're able to say, I can identify how this person went about coming or making a decision about their problem ideation, their assumption mapping, their feature prioritization, and their process of building and launching, then they can say that they finally understand your product strategy, right? That's why when you're trying to understand the strategy of a product team of an established firm, you notice that it takes some time. You don't just look at one thing they've done and say you fully get it. It takes some time, and sometimes it goes beyond what they make available to the public. It could take just questioning people or say you want to study money point and you know about two people that work as engineers, you need to ask them questions and find out how, like, their step-by-step approach to things. That's how you start to figure out people's strategy. But you, as a product manager, you need to know, as you gather this information from all of these things that I mentioned earlier, you want to start picking up on what you think your best way, the best how, like, remember, is the how, the best how to approach your business objective through these processes, what they should be or what it should be for you and your team. So hence defining the product strategy comes first before the concept development begins. So as you gather your problem, as you gather information from your problem ideation, your assumption mapping, your feature prioritization, all of these things happen before you develop a full concept, right? So it's doing all of these things that will give you a strategy, a final strategy for what is our core, the core strategy that we are going with to develop our concepts, like the problem and the solution we figured out. The core of the strategy we are going with to build and launch will come from all the information you've gathered from these other processes. Product strategy is an overview plan that describes what the business goals are for its product and how it intends to accomplish these goals. Again, your product strategy is conclusively deciding what your plan for the business goal is through your products. Remember, everybody that works in a company or in a firm contributes to the business goal or contributes to making the business goal a reality. But so the way they contribute is through their skills. If you say the finance team, they contribute through their ability to do financial modeling, pricing modeling, and what else? Calculations, budgeting, and all that. That is how they contribute to the business goals. You, as a product manager, you are the one that through the software, especially if you're offering service software as a service, you, through your software development and the strategy that you follow, that is how you add your own value, right? While everyone else has how, if you say the communication team, they add value by understanding your users and being able to understand what kind of communication works for your users. If it's business to business, then the communication has to be very official sounding. But if it's business to customers, that means you're selling your products to customers or your users are customers. Then, private individuals, aka customers, of course. That means that your communication with them might not need to be extremely official. There could be times where you want to do fun, interesting things in your messaging to them and all that. So all of those decisions are things you make for your strategy. The communication team deciding on how they approach their communication is them building on their strategy by trying to understand the users. It's the same thing you do with your product. So with you as a product manager, your strategy needs to be something that you've decided within you through your researches and all the information you're gathering, that they can actively and successfully contribute to the growth of the business or to the benefit of the business. And then product strategy should highlight who the target user personas for the product are. Of course, like I said, if you're doing a business to business, that means your patronizers or your users business, and you can't use certain terminologies for businesses. You can choose to assume that most people that own businesses in this field, let's say you're a crypto exchange platform, and you're choosing to believe that most people that will be signing up with you as a business will be millennial CEOs or Gen Z CEOs. You could do that at your own risk, because I do feel like in that situation there will be a lot of non-Gen Z people that what do you call that, non-Gen Z people that would own cryptocurrency businesses that would sign up with your platform. So you can just wake up and say that in my communication, I'm going to be very laissez-faire because I believe that it's Gen Z that would own businesses in cryptocurrency only. I know a 50-year-old man that owns a cryptocurrency business, and you have to make these decisions from informed standpoint. That's how you build your strategy. So if you're trying to figure out personas, you have to be careful treading the line of making informed assumptions of informed opinions, like I said before, versus working with reality, right? So you have to highlight your users or the personas or the possible personas of your potential users will be, and how that affects your product strategy. And then you're also having to decide on who your competitors are, which is something that competitive analysis does for you. Organizations' business goals are for the product. And then this is because stakeholders outside the product team, such as sales, will require the product strategy to guide their sales plan for your product. Okay. So usually stakeholders like marketers, the sales team, sometimes the legal team, while consulting for some integrations or some documentations, they will need to understand what your product strategy is. So that is where having a clearly defined strategy comes in, where it is not just the product team that understands it. It has to be well documented. So when drafting a product strategy document, the first step is to document what the product vision is. Remember, we talked about the vision being just what your future plan for the product is, what you see in the future of your product and how you approach that. Also highlight buyer personas and target markets, direct competitors, and launch plan. Launch plan is how you intend going about from your testing, the points where you test, to the points where you launch. Like, what do you do with that? What is the go-to-market idea or strategy you have within the product team? So it's, again, you're highlighting within your product strategy document. The first thing is to highlight your product vision, and then you highlight your buyer personas, and you highlight your target market, and then you highlight your direct competitors from your competitive analysis, of course, and then you do a launch plan. What is your launch plan going to be? Launch plan ideally schedules. I think it would most times present how you how do I put this? How you test, how you go back to iterate and come from the feedback, and how you do a final launch beyond the MVP. So next identify your product goal. What is the product goal? After, with everything we've mentioned, the next thing to do is to also identify your product goal. For each goal, ensure that there is a metric attached to track success or failure rate of initiatives, as well as timeline for completion. Okay, so whatever your product goal is, it's important that there is a metric with which the success of the goal can be measured. So all of your product goals, like when it comes to your strategy, they need to be measurable, right? And if you have something or a goal that is measurable, then you can have you can work with a measurable metric that will be assigned to you to be able to say, this is how we identify that we've successfully achieved this product goal. Finally, translate goals into business initiatives. Okay, so I think the metric helps you to translate your business goals into full business initiatives. Remember, as we talked about your skill as a product manager, that one of the things you have to be efficient in is the business aspect of a product or of your firm, mainly of a product. You need to be able to have business conversations, the finance aspect and all that, or the market aspect and all that. So It says your business initiatives are company objectives, which the team will break down into actionable tasks. How do your company objectives guide your your roadmap development, right? If you're trying to say that you're giving, for example, you're giving for the business goal, if they say that transparency is a must for all of your products, and you happen to be managing the loan aspect of a fintech app, and if they want transparency, then you need to be able to decide as a product manager, for example, that to you need to be able to make it very clear to customers that they are paying for insurance, right? That part of what they pay for when they take loan is insurance. So then you can decide, do we want to give it to them as an option to pay for insurance or not? So that means if they don't pay for insurance, if anything happens in the time that they hold our money, that we've lent them money and they are yet to pay back, if anything happens within that time, say they lose their job or they die, what happens is that they would have to provide us with the next person that would pay for that will pay back their loan, or we will take any measure that we find fit to get our loan, regardless of the fact that they've lost their job. Or if they do pay for the insurance coverage for their loan in case of unplanned events for their loan or while they are still holding our money, what happens is that they get the option to wait out. We can say you have to pay 30%, you have to pay 10% of your loan or 20% of your loan. But then if you pay that, then we can wait for you until you get a job. So that means that your what do you call that? Your insurance will then cover your all the interest that you would have been accumulating by not paying your loan. But then because you paid for insurance coverage, your interest is covered. So when you get your job back, you can just pay the capital. I do hope this is clear as I'm hoping it is. Again, whatever your business decisions and initiatives, they come in such a way that you're making decisions about how what you have in your product or the features you have in your product benefits the business aspect of your product. Right? You're trying to make sure that your product is not bleeding money. By bleeding money, I mean everything you introduce through your product is not costing the company in itself money. So everything you're introducing to the product should be beneficial, or to a point where it grows customer base, at least, even if it's not bringing in actual money, but it grows customer base, and customer base brings in money. So the product roadmap. A product roadmap is the blueprint for product development. It is a visual plan that displays the strategic initiatives, deadline, goals, and metrics and features for a product against a specific timeline. It is a strategic document that showcases a product's growth over time. The product roadmap is fluid in in that features can be added or removed from the plan depending on factors such as availability of adequate resources, business goals, market positioning, or pivots. Okay, so let me explain this. Your your product roadmap is basically just, you know how you have a building and someone shows you the blueprint for this building. The blueprint for a building is the plan, the building plan. How what when we get to block two, what do we want to put in block two? When we get to this pavement, what do we want to build here? What is the design we want to put here? The railings, what do we want them to look like? Are we including pillars to this house? Is it going to be a duplex? Whatever it is included in your building plan. And as much as I don't know so much about building in itself, I do think building plans would also include and tell you when it intends for say the first floor to be completed, or the toilet or the bathroom or the rooms to be completed. There is a timeline attached, and then there's a timeline attached, and then the features that they want to add, and then how they confirm, or what gives the information that this has been successfully completed. That's the exact same thing that happens with a roadmap. If you say what you're building a healthcare product, it starts to tell you what comes into this, how do we arrive here. So it's basically a plan for your product. How long is it going to take to build one thing? How long is it going to take to build the next thing? And the sequence for these things to be built, right? If there is an integration that will be done with an external service provider, then it will mention it there, and when it expects the integration to be completed and tested. So that is just what your product roadmap does for you. It says here that it's fluid, and it allows for features to be added or removed or fixed. It's not just about adding or removing a feature that you initially thought something about, and through when you started to reach out to stakeholders involved in it, they show you that maybe there's an update in technology or something within the time frame that you've been planning. You then have to edit this feature. So it's not necessarily that you would remove it or add something or add a brand new feature. Sometimes it's like upgrading the feature you already planned for. You make this plan depending on factors such as the resources you have available to you, your business goal, and market positioning. That's your potential market position or market share based on the data that you have, or the existing market position or users that you have, or how you can pivot your strategy. Considering that the roadmap is a document that entails the strategic information relevant to the product. Therefore, stakeholders outside of the product team will be privy to this, to the roadmap. Okay, so I've mentioned severally that your roadmap needs to be in such a way that anybody that looks at it would be able to understand what it is trying to convey. It doesn't have to be so technically worded. It can be worded in such a way that someone in the technical field or in the tech field could look at it and they are impressed with it. But it's also not too complicated for people like the C-suite executives who might not be who might not have strong technical backgrounds, can just take a look at it and also understand it without having to reach out to you via Slack or like via trying to call you to understand, to have a better understanding. It should be very explanatory to the extent that other people, other stakeholders, important, especially important stakeholders, that you will need their opinion on things in the future or their collaboration in the future. You want them to be able to look at your roadmap and be very clear on what your strategy is. So it says here, hence it is important to factor in your audience when drafting a product roadmap. Tools for writing a product roadmap include product plan templates, AHA templates, Mirror templates, and Notion templates. Then there is Google Doc and MS Word. So I'm going to say something. I don't know how many firms still use Google Doc or MS Word to write a product. It's important to have a memory or working memory of the items that need to exist in your product roadmap, right? It's good to have that. But I don't know how many product managers have ever done their product roadmap outside of product plan, AHA, Mirror, and Notion, especially Mirror and Notion. They are the most popular. They are the easiest to adapt to. And even as a beginning product manager, you will find out that the minute you get introduced to Mirror and Notion, you find out that it doesn't take time for you to acclimate to it. So on your own, you could download Notion. Yes, you don't need a company email address to download Notion and try it out. Neither do you need that for Mirror. I am not really sure. I've only used product plan within a team. Like I have not tried to download it by myself and like work with it by myself. But you could also check it out. Just any tool that you're being told about, your PRD tools, all of that. Endeavor to do your own research and have your own working understanding of what like how they function and how you can use them. Now you could want to wait until you are done with this class. That's also fine. But I'm just saying, just for yourself, any product that you hear, even when new products come out and it seems like it's gaining traction in the market, you need to go and do your own research about it and just have a working understanding of it, so that, because you would have interviews as you grow in your career, you would have interviews that where the co-founder wants someone, he will say it in the interview, or the HR will say the tool we use is this and this. Now we primarily use Mirror or primarily use Notion, which is the case for most tech firms. But then they also say, but we want someone that also fully understands AHA, because we have documents that already exist with AHA templates. So we want someone that can work with them and transfer them to Mirror, for example, or work with them within the AHA software. So you just make yourself familiarize these products. You can take a screenshot, or you could just take a picture of the screen and just, so you can just look through it and see what you want to take a look at, or you could just leave it at the end of your training. Then you can do that. You have all the time in the world, but just stay updated with tools, so that when you're reading job descriptions or or role descriptions and they're mentioning certain tools, you're not a complete novice, or during an interview a conversation is being attempted to be had with you on a particular tool for your product management. You won't be so lost, and then it looks like you don't actually understand product management when you do. So the product roadmap audiences. So these are the people or the stakeholders that would go through your roadmap from time to time. So there is one, the product team. This is everybody within your core product team. There is the designer, the marketer, the developers, and the product managers themselves. And the leadership team, that's the C-suite executives, like I've mentioned over and over again. The C-suite executive could also, you could group your head of products into the C-suite executive. The reason is that the head of products would, or the VP of products, for example, would really be like follow your work the way that everybody on your level would follow your work, or someone just one step ahead of you or one seniority ahead of you would follow your work. So when they want to observe your work, they don't want to ever have to slack you for an explanation. So you need to present your work in such a way that a C-suite executive just looks at it, and even if they have questions, it's not question about something so basic that your documentation should have told them, because they will know that if they go through your work, if every time they go through a document that you created and they ask who created this document and they find out that they are struggling to gather what you're saying, they will know that. And if you have things like performance review, it will come into the conversation, and you don't really want that. So internal customer facing team. Okay, you have the sales team, the customer success or customer experience, and the marketing teams. And then the external audiences would include your partners and investors, external relevant stakeholders, sometimes consultants, sometimes some companies freelance for things like business analysts or data analysts. Even they don't have in-house for everything. So those people would sometimes, for the most part, want to look through your roadmap and just out of curiosity, so they have a better picture of your strategy and how to also present their own role, to make sure that they are in sync with you, the product team. Development partners. This is for products that serve as API functions. API is basically a way for two or more software programs to communicate with each other, which is like what I talked about. The integration I keep like mentioning. There are a lot of functions that you don't have the software program for in-house, and you're going to integrate with a service provider that already have the software program, and you will pay a fee, and they'll give you the API integration and servicing for this API integration. But that's something you will learn down the line. So your development partners will also want to look at your roadmap for a clearer picture. And then types of product roadmap. The number one is now, next, later roadmap. This type of roadmap presents a high-level overview that of what the team is working on now and what they intend to work on next, what their future plans are. It shows that what feature the team is working on and why they are building that feature. What what problem does it solve for users and how the work contributes to business goals or initiatives. So now next later roadmap type just a focus on what is present, like what is being worked on, and then what will be worked on in the future. And then it showcases what those features or those functionalities that you're planning for in the future is, and how they key into the business existing business goals or initiatives. Now, next later roadmap is perfect for product teams and external stakeholders. So it basically covers, what it's trying to say is that it covers most of any question that anybody would have about your strategy. So for some people, it presents as the most perfect or the closest to the best you could use. Feature-based roadmap. This entails using a feature as the focal point of your roadmap. A feature-based roadmap will also include feature, company objective, timeline, status, and stakeholders. Okay, so this is more so heavily on showcasing features and who would be working on the features and how long it will take them to work on the features. And that's basically what feature based is. You're focusing on the functionalities, who will work on said functionality, and how long it will take them to accomplish it, or how long will be spent on it. The feature based roadmap for leadership, stakeholders, product team, and internal customer. Okay, sorry. A feature-based roadmap will also include feature, company objective, timeline, status, and stakeholders. The feature-based roadmap for leadership, stakeholders, product team, and internal customer facing teams. Okay. Number 30 is Kanban or status-based roadmaps. This type of roadmap is used to visualize work at various stages of development, displaying status of work such as in testing. Okay, in testing, in development. Okay, so this is a roadmap that shows you the status. It's like the goal is to present whomever may be looking at it with information on how far we've come, where are we, what are we doing next, right? It doesn't mean that it doesn't show you what is being built or what is being planned for the future, but its focus is on status. It's like once you look at it, the first thing you see is in progress, or completed, or launched, or like whatever status they have, or status option they have available. You immediately see it there. Once you're looking at it, the first thing it presents you with, and its focus is the status of each feature that is being worked on. Many other types of roadmaps exist, hence selecting a roadmap type is dependent on the audience and type of product in question. Okay, so we've talked about stakeholders for so long. I have mentioned stakeholders over and over again. So finally, you'll be introduced to what a stakeholder is and how they play a part in your product management and process, or the life cycle of the product you're managing. A stakeholder is an individual with an interest in something. Hence, effective stakeholder management involves understanding the needs and satisfying the expectations of everyone involved in the attainment of success for the product and managing them throughout the product life cycle. Okay, so it says here that a stakeholder is someone that has an interest in something. If you say that you have bread as a parent, say you're a parent and you just bought bread in the house, and once that bread enters that house, your children have become stakeholders of that bread. They have vested interest in that bread, because as a matter of fact, their parents, their mom or dad, bought the bread. So first of all, if you know anything about raising children, you do know that whatever you buy is their own. Even if you bought it for yourself, they have special interest in it, because even when you've taken out a part of it and given to them, they are more interested in your share of it. So they've become invested shareholders in it. So it's the same thing. You have a product you're working on. Every team that will be affected by this product they are stakeholders, but you also, it's important to also understand their individual roles, like apart from just being a part of a team. For each team, you're going to be told, or it's going to be clarified to you what role that each person plays in their team that is affected by your product. So in the same breath, you need to understand what role that they play as individuals in regards to your product. So effective stakeholder management involves understanding the needs and satisfying the expectation of everyone. So now it's important to note here that while you are trying to understand the needs and the effect of your product decisions on every stakeholder, it is not your responsibility to perfectly align with everybody and their needs or expectations of your products, but it is definitely your responsibility to manage expectations, right? People are allowed to have expectations. You might not meet up with all of them, and that is okay. That is what makes a great product manager. Remember, I talked about being able to say no to things that are irrelevant to your goal for that particular product, or the product goal for the business in as a whole. It is okay that you disagree with certain stakeholders. I have had to say no to um, what do you call them, head of products, several times. I've had to say no to head of engineering, and I've had to disagree with co-founders, and I've had to let them know that we can go the route they want, but this is the data that I have, and this is what I know, given this data and my observation of the market or the trend in the industry. And I'm going to have to respectfully say no, but I am always open to your suggestion on other things, but I'm going to manage this to the best of my ability, and it's my responsibility to give you the best, and you want the best from me. So you need to learn how to manage expectations and how to say no. And part of managing expectations is making sure that you're not over promising, right? If you're building something, do not over. In fact, it might be to your best interest to under promise and then over deliver, right? If you say we are building a tracking app and we can track where a person is, don't go and start saying things like we can also track other phones around them and identify other devices around them, and maybe the people that own the devices, because your what do you call that, your developers promised you that. They promised you that they can code something that can make you find out who is around whomever you're tracking, right? Maybe it's a tracking app for kids that have phones that their parents want to be able to tell where they are at every time, which is good for minors. And if you're minor, if you're saying that I'm building something for your minor and I can track them, you don't have to start putting in the extra of and we can tell where it is, unless you are certain that this person, the person you're working with, can build it, or they've built it before and you've seen them build it before. Other than that, don't overpromise. Just promise what is the most important feature. As a parent that is looking for a tracking device, or sorry, a tracking app for the phone they've given to their minor, or the tablet they've given to their minor, what they are looking for example, is just to be able to tell this is where my child is, right? When my child, for people that do things like sleepovers with their cousins, I want to know that this is the house my child is in at this time. And if they are going for a school program outside of school, they want to be able to tell that this is where my child is as well. Like the goal for them is not that you have all those extra. We can see who they're sitting beside them or something like that. It's not necessary that you start to overpromise. You need to manage expectation in such a way that when you deliver, it's not there's no feeling of disappointment, and it's true you cannot satisfy anybody, but don't set yourself up for failure with your stakeholders. And what else? Okay, being able to identify stakeholders relevant stakeholders relevant to your product success, and ensuring that you deeply understand their interest in your product is important, like I mentioned. Um, is important to the overarching responsibility of effectively managing them. So every time we talk about managing, it's very important to understand the role each stakeholder plays, and how it affects your product. That way, you understand better how to communicate with them and how to deliver certain expectations, or how to deliver disappointing news or disapproval or disagreements with them without bruising their ego, or their something they call their corporate ego. Just as different audiences exist for your roadmap, the same way multiple stakeholders will exist for a particular product. Yes. Um, Sometimes, in fact, all the time, stakeholders for a particular product would change. Sometimes they change over time. Sometimes they are the same. Sometimes you have more people coming in. Sometimes you have less people um, playing the role of stakeholders to a particular product. As the product manager, you will sometimes be inundated with a list of feature requests or suggestions from several people. However, not every one of them should be considered to be a stakeholder. Exactly. So you could have suggestions and concerns and all that. That doesn't automatically make someone a stakeholder. To test whether someone fits the bill of a stakeholder, ask yourself whether that person has veto power over your team or product, or can prevent your product from going live. Exactly. So when you say a co-founder is a stakeholder, is because whatever you're building, if he says stop, you will stop. If he says I'm pulling resources for this new product that we started, he will put the resources, and it is his role and his responsibility to protect his intellectual property that he has paid you to guard or manage. If the head of product says that you're going to discontinue, or he wants something a certain way, he's within his right to make that request. How you manage that communication, or the disappointment, or like maybe it might not be from you, it could be that another team is hindering it. How you handle that news, and when you're being told we are pulling the plug on this, or we are going to go ahead and make this even more complex, and that means giving you more work than you expected or anticipated, and you're disappointed because you didn't expect to do all that extra work. How you communicate that, or even deciding on whether or not you want to communicate that, given that you need these people for this product, will be it will tell a lot on your ability to function as a product manager. So it's part of your stakeholder management or people management. Like I said here, once you've identified who a stakeholder is and isn't, categorize your stakeholders into a grid matrix. Know a Mendelow's stakeholder matrix known as okay. Categorize your stakeholders into a grid matrix known as Mendelow's stakeholder matrix. According to the placement of each stakeholder on the matrix, align your stakeholder management efforts accordingly. Okay, so this is it. You have context setters, you have players, you have crowd, you have subjects, and everybody is geared towards the power and then interest. So you have to understand who how do we keep this? You have to understand who plays a power role, like who has power to make decisions about your product, and then you have to understand who is more of interest. If, for example, the customer experience manager, like the head of the customer experience team, comes to you and says, we need this product to not go this way because it will affect our team. And what we are saying is it will bring so many questions up, and that means we will need we don't have enough manpower to handle the questions that will come from the customers or the users after you've launched this. So can we consider a different option? is theirs is interest. They cannot pull a plug on your product. They cannot um, prevent resources for your product. They are just letting you know how it affects them, and how they manage their role would directly affect your product. So you understand that they are stakeholders, but sorry, to what extent do they, how do I put this? To what extent do they affect your product? Let's read from the material. Players. So we have here, we have here from this matrix board, we have context setters, we have players, we have crowd, we have subjects. So let's understand the rules from the explanation. Players, stakeholders in this category are high power, high interest stakeholders, which means they have high stakes in the product and possess veto power. Remember, vetoing something is that you have the final decision. If you say yes, this will go on, and it can go unquestioned. Your decision about it can go unquestioned, or will go unquestioned. And whether it's a positive or a negative doesn't matter. The point is that you are in power. You have enough power to make a final decision on a particular situation or product in this context. The way to manage these people is to actively engage them with product or team updates in order to ensure close interaction. The customers, the CEO, the COO, your manager are individuals who fall into this category. So as a product manager, the head of product is a big player in your stakeholder categorization. The CEO, the CTO, and then your customers as well. If customers stop having interest in your product, then your product is done for. So considering them and having empathy for their experience is very important. Context setters, these stakeholders have high power but less interest in your activities. Manage this set of stakeholders by sharing just enough information to keep them satisfied but not overwhelmed. If you overwhelm them, they start to ask more questions and start to pose more problems for you. So you have to manage them in such a way that their little interest in your product is satisfied, but not to the extent that they feel like they need to come in and make decisions because they feel like you're not handling it well. So don't give up too much information. Give up the vital information they need to stay as minimally interested as they've been. For example, is your investors and financial stakeholders. The finance team, by the way, they are usually stakeholders in your product, but to what extent? Usually they are part of your context setters. You need to be able to give them enough information to sign off on hiring a new, because you do know that before you hire a new hand for a team, you need the finance team to sign off on that and let you know what the budget is for that new role, or what the budget could be for that new role. So when you say we need to expand our team, we need an intern because there are things I cannot fully cover as a product manager. If you're saying that, you need to be able to convince them as to why. If you're saying we need to hire a contractor to give us certain analysis because previously we fired everyone in the digital team, so I need someone to give me a business analysis of something or something like that. You need to be able to convince them without boring them with every detail and overwhelming them with so much information. Subjects, these stakeholders have high interest in your product but wield low power over you and your team. Manage them by providing adequate information about your product and address any complaints or feedback they may have. Okay, so people like this are the customer experience team, the fraud team. For example, for the fintech, most fintechs have fraud team because a lot of fraud complaints do come in and all that. So you need to learn to, when you're doing, especially when you're doing change plan for your new product, right, or your new feature, what you would usually have to engage these people in meetings where you explain what the new product is, especially as it affects them. So if you're going to talk about the customer experience team, you will do a full-on introduction to the new feature and the questions that could be asked and all that, how to handle customer concerns and all of those things. Of course, they have their skills, they understand their role, but hearing this from you and understanding the strategy for this product would help them know how to address customer concerns in regards to this product. So they are part of I believe that they will be a part of your subject team, as well as things like the fraud team and say something like students, what do you call those people, student influencers, but that's not the project, something they are called, like the students that, if it's like products that young people, Gen Zers use, you use certain student or campus ambassadors. They are also, they can tell you, they can give you feedback or information from their experience, but they don't build any power over you or anything. Crowd stakeholders in this category possess low power and have low interest in your product activities. Hence, management requires minimal efforts, just monitoring. Example, general public, competitors, customers, etc. Okay, and that brings us to the end of our class today, or our session today. Remember, I told you that this one was shorter than the one I started to get into in error. And I don't think I really need to recap this. I'll just say this. Remember, we discussed crafting your product vision. Your product vision being what your future plan, or your view on what would happen with your product in the future, what your product will look like, will function like, and how much money it will make, the business aspect of your product in the future. That's what your product vision is. And this also goes into your product strategy. And you have to learn. We talked about learning to define your product strategy and what goes into it, and then your product roadmap, the types of product roadmap, and then we talked about your stakeholders, which is the last thing we discussed. Your stakeholders, types of stakeholders, the players, and the ones that will minimal power and minimal interest, and basically have no influence on you or your decision, but you need to monitor them and their reaction to your product. And we have come to the end of today's session, and I want to thank everybody for attending today. I want to take like 2 to 3 questions, and we will call it a day. If you have any question, if you've prepared any questions, you could go ahead and ask. And because I wasn't able to take any questions for the last session, I would be open to taking 1 or 2 questions from the last question. So if you have a question from the last session and you find out that someone has already asked before, and we already have 2 questions for the last session, I can, depending on the time, I might consider a 3rd one. But I think I'll just off the top of my head, I'll just take 2 questions from the last session, and then we'll go into questions for this session now. So if you have questions from the last session, let's hear it. And Joshua, I don't know if you're still online with us or if you're still keyed in with us. Can you give the room to whomever has their hand up for the last session, so we can go into questions for this session? Okay, I do not think Joshua is online. So give me a second to navigate my screen, and so that I can call up whomever has their hands up. Just a second. Okay, so we have Sandra Ikeburoka. Again, guys, if I ever butcher your name, I want to say I am not doing it on purpose. You can correct me before you start speaking, or you could choose to ignore it and leave it as it is, just knowing that I wasn't trying to offend you or disrespect your name. Sandra, please, you're up. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, my question is on this section, not the last section. So I would like to know the difference
Sandra, if you're
between.
speaking, I can't hear you. I don't know. Can anybody hear Sandra? Is it my network?
Yes, you can hear us like it's on network. Do you hear what I say?
And Joshua is speaking, and I can't hear Joshua. So there is a problem with my connection. Please give me a second. Let me adjust my earbud. Could be for me.
Okay.
Sandra, if you're speaking, you could just pause a bit so I can make sure it's not coming from my earbud.
No problem.
Okay, let's try again. Sandra, you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much for the lecture.
I still
My
can't
question
hear
is,
anything.
my question is on today's section. So you talked about
Joshua, can you
product.
identify if you can hear Sandra?
Yes, I can hear her. Maybe she can type it.
And now I can't even hear Joshua. And I know it's showing me
That
that he's speaking, but I
don't
can't hear him.
delay us further.
I'll just disconnect the earbud and try to do it without that.
Okay, I can go ahead and type it.
Okay, Sandra, speak, please. I should be able to hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, my question is on today's section. You talked about product vision and goal. And to me, they sound alike. So I would like to know the difference between
Can anybody
product.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. I don't know why you can't
Sandra,
hear.
could you
Sandra was
yeah, I can hear you now. Sandra, could you restart your question so I can follow you?
Okay, you talked about product vision and product goal. And to me, they sound alike. So I would like to know the difference between product vision and product goal.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Just give me a second.
Okay.
Because your voice is quite faint without my earbud. Let me try. Okay, so I hope you can hear me. So, what I would say about your product vision versus your goal is that your goal is basically what milestones do you want to reach, or how do I put this? It's like you have a dream for your product in regards to how you want it to function. So, what are the milestones that you're going to hit to be able to achieve that? Like that's what your goal, like what your goal will encapsulate everything that has to do with achieving your dream for the product based on functionality. But then your vision is what you see in the future, like what is what is the future of your product going to be? How is like when you're setting your product vision. I'll say, for example, something that could have, for example, started as wanting to bank every Nigerian, right? Wanting to make every Nigerian bankable, and then their vision changed over time. I think after three or 2 years, the vision for Kuda app became to bank every to bank every African within the globe. Okay, yes, I think Kuda started as to bank every African, and then later on they changed their goal to bank every African within the globe. So they then started to expand and create what do you call them, branches in Kenya, in Uganda, and all of that, right? And then there's a branch in UK. Basically, the head office is in UK and all that. That is that then became like working towards their vision. But I feel like your product goal is basically what do you want to achieve? How do you want to achieve the dream you have for your product functionality? In like the goal is more so about the functionality, from my understanding of these two words for a product. I do hope that helped.
Okay, thank you. So in the essence, what you are saying is that my goals are the steps.
Um,
The steps I take.
Joshua will take the next question from the last session.
I I'm not seeing anyone raising his hand, so I don't know where I got that.
Joshua, I genuinely cannot hear you. I'm wondering, is it my network? I don't know what's happening.
Okay, I'm saying I can't. I didn't get what you said. No one is raising hand anymore, so I don't know.
Okay, I think it's a network problem. I think it's okay. So, if you have a question, please, when you're called, please type it out so I can read it as well. I think that would be better. Type it out in the question session. I'll read so that I can read it and respond. So, if you have a question, type. I think that helps because I don't know what else to do. I've taken off my earbud or my AirPod and I still can't hear anything. So.
I just typed on the chat. You can check through.
Do we have any more questions from the last session? Okay, Gloria, I think I see Gloria's hands up. Please go ahead and type.
She can try speaking. Gloria can try speaking whether she can hear you. Gloria, you're muted. You can... Gloria, you are allowed to speak. Please mute yourself. Okay. Unmute yourself, sorry.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me, please?
Sandra, can you hear her? I don't think she can hear you. Maybe you have to type. I don't think she can hear you. Maybe you have to type.
All right, I'll type the question. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any questions being typed out. So this is what I would do. I think we should do this. Ask questions. Ask your questions from today in the question channel, and I will answer it. And again, remember to ask questions within last session's conversation and this session's conversation. Anything outside that, I wouldn't be able to give you a response because we had a lot on our desk to work on. So we don't have so much time to dedicate to things that are not very relevant to our classes, unfortunately. So remember, relevance is very important, or is the only motivation I need to answer your question. And I'll answer your question throughout this evening. Even like if you post much later, I'll answer it once. But once it's about 10 p.m., I think that's the first time from 7 till 3 hours. You have 3 hours to come up with your question. I would answer you. I'll drop a comment and answer you. I think that's the best thing I can do because what is happening with my network on my device is not your fault. So drop your questions in the question channel, and I will answer, or Joshua could also provide you with your response if he does have one. And thank you for today's class, and I apologize for the technical issue with the sound. Everybody knows this is the first time that is happening to me. That's probably why I don't have a solution. I have disconnected my earbud and I still can't hear anything, and I don't know what to do with that. So my best bet is just to give you a response to your written questions. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for being so patient with us, especially with the error that occurred earlier. And you would have this class, the recording for this class posted on the YouTube channel. So I'll give you an update as to that, or Joshua will give you an update as to that when it's posted. And thank you again, and do have a lovely evening and the rest of your weekend. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Joshua.
Sandra.